So today's video, we're going to be discussing how to get Photoshoot level lean. This is pushing beyond 10% body fat. And you may think, why on earth would I want to go through such misery and pain to achieve such a look? But actually, there is a lot to be said for individuals that have gone to Photoshoot level lean. In this video, we'll discuss client results that we've managed to do. Obviously, I did it myself. These photos were taken actually a while back ago, to be fair, around about just over 2 years ago. Now we'll speak about my own journey, how you can do it for yourselves, and then I've got a nice little bonus for you at the end of the video. So let's roll straight in. These are two examples that we did with clients in the last year. This was a 17-week result, and as we can see, anybody can really get photo shoot level lean, even with not the best of starting positions. You can really transform yourself into an absolute new character by getting photo shoot level lean, and this is you setting your sights higher than the average individual. Same again, another 17-week result where we got photo shoot level lean ready for the nice shots. So how to get photo shoot level lean is what we're going to discuss in this video. The first thing you need to focus on getting as lean as possible first. Then we can put the magic on to come on top of that. So the first thing I want to show you is like how you're going to set yourself up just to get dieted down, shredded anyway. So let's roll straight into that. So I always like to make these videos educational first. So the first thing you want to do is understand your starting point. So you've taken your scale weight 48.8, let's take that as an example, and you will come in at 20% body fat. I mean, looking at these images here, potentially sat in around the space of 20%, maybe a touch softer here. If you look at the adipose tissue, it's sat, maybe this guy's a little bit more. So just know that, like, let's say you're sat at the average of 20% body fat. You're then going to give yourself a lean mass of 67.84. That is the figure that you're then going to add 8% to, because realistically you're going to need to be sub 10 if you're going to be photo shoot condition, and that's going to give you a figure to aim for of 75.8. So this guy, this made up guy, would need to lose 9 kilos. I actually think you could probably do this quicker than the results I did mine in. Potentially they were starting from a softer point. One thing I would say with the photo shoot is just aim off that it will be longer than a 12-week typical result that I speak about many times on this channel. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know 20% down to 10% absolutely can be done in 12 weeks, and it will change your life. If you're going to push to 8%, do a photo shoot, you're going to want to give yourself just a little bit more leeway and a little bit more time, because when you are going from 10 to 9, 9 to 8, that's where it takes a little bit more effort to get off. You will have to suffer a little bit harder to do so, but at the end, it will all be worth it. And we'll come on to why you would do this in a second, once we've just given you some quick, tangible knowledge to go away from this video with. Let's say you're at the average level of activity. This individual's maintenance, getting his RMR and his activity together, would be sat at 2845. Now, when you are starting at 20%, don't go so low so early. This is one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anyone that wants to get lean, shredded, or just even drop body fat. A lot of people you see will just absolutely pull people's calories down to the floor as quick as possible. I'm going to tell you, it's not the way to go. It's not enjoyable for the client. They lose performance in the gym. They lose muscle fullness, therefore feel a lot skinnier a lot sooner. And overall, when you pull too low too early, where do you go from there? Lower? You haven't really got anywhere else to go with it, and the body almost ends up running out of steam. It's almost like you've got a finite amount of coal to put into your fire to get the train moving. If you spunk it all in the beginning, that train is going to ground to a halt because it's just used it all in steam. So in this analogy here, this guy can start off on 2,600 calories, which is a nice amount to be dieting down on. And from there, you're going to look to keep it as high as you can for as long as you can. The macro breakdown of this, by the way, you get your protein target by times in this figure by 2.4. That's your lean mass. But if you start at 20% body fat, 1 gram per pound of body weight is absolutely a fine figure to use. Fats are at 20% of this target here. That's coming in at 58. And the rest is going to be filled with carbohydrates, 360. And they are absolutely sacred for your dieting phase, because then they are your building blocks for performance in the gym. They're going to keep muscle fullness for the longest period of time. So you want to do whatever it takes to keep that food as high as you can for as long as it can, because there will come a time when you are needing to pull it down. Don't make that so early. So you may be asking, well, how do we make the deficit greater? How do we get that 1% drop of the scale weight per week? You're going to look to push output. First of all, you'll walk 10,000 steps per day. Maybe you'll look to push that. Ideally, if you've got the time, I would always say to do so because it's the lowest cost of fatigue when it comes to taking you leaner. But let's say 10,000 steps is probably the absolute, like for the longest period of time, that's like a safe amount you can do, but any more, it's going to be detrimental to your routine. So then you're going to add formal cardio, and this would start off at 20 minutes per day. Keep the heart rate 120 to 130 and do it on something that is non-impact. A bike, an incline treadmill. Don't quite yet play the card of using a cross trainer or a Stairmaster because it will send your heart rate up higher. We'll come to that, but we want to progress onto that. Use each tool of the box, milk the life out of the tool until the scale weight stops dropping, then change the variable. But I would actually say start with 20 minutes daily. When you stop dropping a kilogram per week, then add to 30 minutes daily. Continue rinse and repeat the process, and then go to 40 minutes daily. Then up the intensity of cardio. Go from anywhere from 120 to 130 to 145 to 155 beats per minute, and be a bit more aggressive with it. That's when you can introduce things like the Stairmaster. All while you've held on to food for a long period of time. When you do need to start pulling from food, then you can start to look to pull from fats first, because 58 grams of fat is a fair amount of calories. Obviously, you can get this figure here and times it by 9. I've actually got a calculator to hand now, so that's going to give you 522 calories to play with. Realistically, you could do a pull of 150 or 200 at any given time, and you can pull off a good, I mean, you're not going to be on zero fat, let's be honest. Like, it's impossible to be on zero fat diet. That's why I have no qualms pulling from it in the beginning. But you can make 2 or 3 good pulls from that will drop off a solid kilo each and every time you do that. And you want to keep your carbs as high as you can for as long as you can. Like, carbs and protein, when it comes to diet down, are the most important macros. Fats are important, of course they are, but you're never going to be on zero fat. It's literally impossible to be on a zero fat diet unless you just ate like fish and a rice cake. If you ate those two, then fine. But let's be honest, you're probably not going to be eating that. You're going to be eating a structured meal plan that was allocated to you, which I've done many videos on that. If you want me to do a specific eat exactly this diet plan to get shredded, I can do. But as a quick rule of thumb, I'll just quickly tell you now, you would take your protein target, go straight to 40 grams and just pick from this. You're going to want the leaner options because they'll give you more bang for your buck. So you've got something like egg whites, chicken breast, whitefish, turkey. That's also good. At the start of your dieting phase, where you've got calories to play with, have in there some red meat or have in there a salmon fillet, but no, it's going to come at a higher cost of calories. When it comes to your carb options, realistically, I am a big lover of rice just for how well it digests and how well it seems to run across the board for everyone else. But if you want something with a bit more volume, then look to implement oats or, if it's later in the day, white potato. Your fats are going to come from either the meats or also nut butters, dark chocolates, or maybe some avocado or the egg yolk. And then you're going to utilize fiber, which is going to be made up of your veg and also your fruits to add volume and size to the diet as well. Just for a quick bit of like how it actually pieces together. So then that's how essentially you would go through to get yourself lean, like lean. So you just continue rinse, repeat, track all your data. Make the change in the variables, push cardio first, food comes after, drop the kilogram each and every week, and you'll get down close to around the space of, if you're coming in at best part of 85 kg, you need to get to 76, you'll get down to like 79 quite comfortably just doing that, and then the last few kgs is where you're really going to have to work and turn on the gas. So if we go back to the topics of the video, on the analogy of turning on the gas, the beautiful thing about doing a photo shoot is it's a true test of your character. It's above just getting lean, dropping a little bit of body fat, like doing this cute little New Year, New Me stuff. It's going that next level up. I would put this on, I did Kilimanjaro once, and like I've also dieted down to get absolutely peeled to the bone, and they were both just as hard as each other in their own way. Kilimanjaro was obviously shorter but more intense, but this was also intense and dragged out for a longer period of time. So I would put this in the same category. And why this would be good to do is if you've not done anything recently or ever in your life to really challenge yourself, it's a free opportunity to just absolutely put yourself in the locker and see what type of individual you're capable with, because everybody can talk a good game until you're absolutely ravenous, you're pushing output, your body is literally eating itself to get as lean as it possibly can be. It hurts to stand up after a while. You don't even want to have conversations with people in person. Like, it's just a good test of character. I'm not saying live your life like this forever, but it's good to see, have you actually got it in the locker to push all the way? Because a lot of people haven't. A lot of people like the idea of looking like this, but a lot of people do. Less people like the idea of doing the work to actually get down to that lean level. But if you think you're above the average person when it comes to mindset and being able to do things, this will absolutely be a great test of your character. And the beautiful thing for it is, what's your reward at the end? You get some nice shots. You can stick them on your Instagram, stick them on your dating profiles, wherever you want to stick them. But like, that's your trophy at the end to showcase you're a man of discipline, you're a man of consistency, you're a man of resilience, and you're a man to your word that can do something hard when he says he's going to do it. Because the inherent thing of actually dieting down is not hard. Let's be honest, it's not mentally taxing to walk on a treadmill. It's not mentally taxing to put less food in your mouth than it is to eat more. It's not mentally taxing to go out and walk and do steps. It's not mentally taxing to prep meals. It's not mentally taxing to train in the gym, because if you're thinking about getting photo shoots ready, you probably already love the gym anyway. So that's probably not even an effort, although it will be hard when you're training during these last phases of the diet, and that's why you do want to keep those carbohydrates high. So that's why I reckon you should do this, just solely for your character. Now, let's say you have focused on getting lean first, you've done the setup, you're dropping through the kilos, you know this is going to be tough, you've got your mind set up in the right space. Then let's also listen to your body as you go through the process. So you want to manage fatigue, because if you accumulate too much fatigue, you will run out of steam. Your performance in the gym will drop off and you'll lose muscle fullness again. And also, if you become high fatigue, your body will essentially just need more food and need a refeed. Otherwise, it'll hold on to what it has. Cortisol will be higher because stress is higher, because fatigue is higher, and you'll have that watery, soft look, and it will really annoy you that you can't get that last little bit off. So you're going to want to be tactful in implementing refeeds and deloads. Let's touch on deloads first. Obviously, that's to capture training, which I appreciate I haven't really spoke about training. But your training will literally stay the same regardless anyway. You'll aim to apply progressive overload. The only difference is when you're getting to photo shoot level, don't implement any drop sets, back off sets, intensifiers, anything like that, because it's not going to be hard enough that it maintains the muscle tissue nor builds some. It's just going to be in this space where it's not quite as hard as it should be, but it is still difficult. So you're just going to be burning glycogen, burning carbohydrates here, and overall just giving yourself a miserable time of it. So when you want to implement a deload, this may be around week 8 or 9 of the process. You're just going to drop a set across everything you do. You're going to keep the intensity for the reason I just mentioned, but you're going to drop a set to allow yourself to wash off that fatigue. When would you implement a refeed? You'd implement a refeed when you are flat as a pancake, and I'm talking you feel so sucked off and skinny that you think you've lost all your muscle. You haven't lost all your muscle, you are just flat. The amount of times I've had to say this to people going through the process, but it's more than understandable. And it's something that absolutely everyone should be educated on, because if you don't know this and you get flat, you'll think you've lost your muscle and you'll sack it because you'll be like, I'm small, I'm skinny. You're not. You're just flat. And when we say flat, there's no carbs, specifically glycogen inside the muscle, that are not pushing the muscle tight against the skin. Ever got a really big pump after eating well? That's because you're full of glycogen, there's carbs inside the muscle, and you've got a pump, so that muscle is pushing tightly against the skin. You won't have this when you're flat, when you're about 8 weeks in, because you've been in calorie deficit and you've been dropping carbohydrates. Even if you've been keeping them high, you're still technically in a deficit, therefore less is going in than what is actually needed, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be dropping body fat, let's be honest. So then to implement a refeed, you're going to do this at week, let's say you've mapped this out, your shoot is 14 weeks away, you've only got 9 kgs to lose anyway, you would implement your first one at week 8, and what that's going to do is your opportunity to collect data on how you look after a certain amount of carbohydrates coming in, and we'll talk about that in a second when it comes to peak week. Data on how the condition is the next day, what effect that had on the scale across the 2 days, and then how you look with that pump, and then you can test and adjust. Now that will last for about 2 weeks, and then you'll need to refeed again and repeat the process. And it's a case of you've been dragged flat, you fill yourself up, you drag yourself flat and fill yourself up, and you keep doing that process until the job is done and you are crispy and you are lean. But doing it that way will mean once you have had the refeed, muscle fullness is restored, morale is going to be a lot higher, training performance is going to be a lot better, and then also your look and condition will be a lot better, and I actually think you will sleep better as well when you are fuller, so that also will help drop fatigue as well. So let's say you're going through this process and now you're coming into last week, and which is known as peak week. Now peak week is not some magical miracle week. You must get lean first, you must get to 8% body fat ready for the shoot, and then you can do the fine tuning. Don't still be at 10% and expect the peak week to do it for you. It won't. if anything, you might even just make your condition look worse, in which case, like, that will really piss you off, especially if you book the photo shoot for a day, you pay for the photographer, all that good stuff. So we'll go through peak week. So carbs are the most important factor. Muscle fullness is equal from carbs and water. So we must understand that. Manipulating sodium can cause a less vascular look. I would honestly tell you, and it's not something I do, I have researched it, it's not something I'm ever going to practice. For the 2 shoots I did with my guys, we didn't manipulate sodium because the chances of you getting that little bit of an extra benefit versus fucking it up are so out of, like, the risk to reward ratio is just not worth it. Honestly, do not piss about with anything like that unless you have like a coach that takes you to stage. Then fine. If he's got results doing it again and again and again, then fine. But for the most of you doing this, and if you're doing it by yourselves, do not run the risk of fucking around with sodium. So from 7 to 3 days out, take photos in the morning after training to assess the level of pump beforehand. Weigh yourself morning and post pump to see how you are looking. 2 days out, visuals, photos after each meal, weigh in after each meal as well. This is now we're coming in like real tactful when we do this. When we are doing our carbs plus water, and this will be the same as the refeed process. During the refeed process, you are going to get your scale weight and you're going to times it by 7. And that's going to give you a figure, and that's the amount in grams you're going to run for carbohydrates. You're then going to half your total protein target to make room for this. You can't type today. No, you really can't type today. He's going to half the protein target. The fats are going to stay where they are. Now, what this is going to give you the very first time you run a refeed is going to give you data on how you look when you are going into the refeed process. There are a few things that can happen. You can either look flat still, full versus spilled. So on this, let's talk about flat first. Flat is you took on the carbohydrates, you woke up the next day and you still don't have that like pumped full look. In which case you need more carbohydrates and more water, then repeat the process again. Obviously, if you are I wouldn't. So this is the way I look at it. If you've done that on the refeed process and you still look a little bit flat, don't then do another refeed that time. Just the next time you do the refeed, go off a times 8 and increase the amount of carbohydrates that you give yourself. Then if you were to do this just before the shoot and you look flat, I would come in at like half the overall target the next day to increase the amount of carbs I've got going in. Let's say you look full. This is perfect. This is the absolute perfect point. You ran the refeed, you ran the high day, you woke up the next day, you are full and you are still dry. Don't do anything. Don't touch absolutely anything. If anything, what I would say is go back to your original day of feeding, but you can increase the fats a little bit because the fats are going to hold the look inside the physique because fats slow down the digestion. Now, the last and the most important one to mess around with, like, if you're flat, cool, not a problem. We've not taken too much of our haircut off and we've not fucked it. So we can give a bit more carbs. If you're full, we've nailed it sweet. The fade is crispy. If we've spilled it, this is the analogy where we've taken the fade too high. Now you look like fucking me. You will wake up the next day, you'll be full, but you'll have that watery look. Now, when we did in fact, this was the first shoot we did. When he woke up the next day, he was so the day before, crispy, dry as anything. You could have cut razors off his midsection. When we ran the refeed, the next day there was a little bit of a soft, spilled look. In which case he was like panicking. He's like, "We fucked it. I'm soft." I was like, "Chill, don't worry about it." Because what we do is, when you're peaking for the end of the photo shoot day, you want to give yourself a little bit of time. So if your photo shoot is on a Saturday, I'll run the refeed on a Thursday. That way it gives us all the Friday to test and adjust. So when we woke up, I said, right, it's okay. You're a little bit spilled, run back to the original day of feeding, do a light pump session later on in the day, and that will, you'll essentially burn through that excess carbohydrates. Bang, 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 did all that stuff, woke up on the next day of the shoot, dry and full. Because that's why you leave yourself a little bit of time, because otherwise you're going to wake up on the day fluffy and you've messed the whole thing up. One thing I will say is remove all your vegetables one day out. This can be a useful target to do just because they hold water, and also do not add anything random to your diet. If you weren't eating it in the most of the diet phase, do not run it now because it will do something to you and it will mess you up. Just keep things as simple as you possibly can. So you are, and just to put the other bits back into context, the day before, so let's say the Wednesday, you're going to have taken photos post-workout and see the look. You'll have the scale weights you'll be weighing in daily anyway. Then the morning of, you'll run the refeed, take photos that morning before you run it. You'll then take photos the day after to see how you look. You'll compare the scale weight. If you've done it right, your scale weight will barely even go up. It may go up like a little bit, but it won't go up that much. Whereas if you overspill, it'll go up about 2 kg and you'll be like, fuck. And then you'll have to test and adjust to get it back off. So that is essentially how to run like a lead up to a photo shoot prep. The exciting news and offer I have here is the Gorilla Platoon is going to be running 2 photo shoots this year. First one's going to be in the USA in May. So for any of my brothers that are listening and watching from the USA, that's your opportunity to get peeled to the bone. Just if you're interested, there'll be a link below this. Just book a call or message me directly on Instagram. We can chat it through. And then 2 weeks later, there is one for the originals. The UK members are doing theirs, which we've got a big amount of for the UK one, and we've got a few on the USA one. So it'd be cool to see many members of the channel that view this that want to get photo shoot peeled. So yeah, if that's something that you think would be cool and you'd want to do, then you can book a call and we can take it from there. So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you are going to push yourselves to this level of condition, because it is your birthright to look the best you possibly can, and pushing yourself to photo shoot level. And again, it's a hard thing to do. It's like when I had to get into the Paras, we had to do this event called the log race. So it's a like 1.9 mile run holding this wooden log. Is about 60 kgs, about 8 of you on it. You're all pelting it down to like overtake each other, and like it's just known for crucifying recruits. That was probably one of the hardest physical things I'd ever done. Then I did the Kilimanjaro up to the top, the summit there with like minimal oxygen. That was fucking rough as toast. But honestly, doing the photo shoot as well was probably up there, just like walking around ravenous, like looking at everything looked nice and appealing, even foods I'd never even been interested in. It's just another good test of your character. So I'd put it up there within the top 3 things I've done, which are like quite tough on the body. So that's why I like the idea of it. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.